My name is Darcy, and I am giving you an update of the research that I've done over the summer with my Sabbatical Beauty Scholarship money, and want to let you know what I've been up to. So if you're new to this, I did a project called Beauty in Action / Beauty in Action. And what I was looking at was the difference between the beauty industry and the way that there is a lack of social action versus people who are trying to transform the beauty industry by using that field or that industry to actually make political or social growth. And my plan was to try to get published in magazines, but as most of you probably know, that was um, a lesson in accepting rejection. I sent a lot of abstracts out and did not get any bites back. So I had to sort of rethink what I was going to do with this. So what I did instead was, instead of focusing on an article, I decided to make this into a project. And the way my research looked at this issue was looking at the fact that as consumers, sorry, I have notes here, we have this ability to influence the world around us, and businesses are by nature, hey Carol, are value laden. They are reinforcing values, and as consumers we are either supporting those or speaking out against those by the way that we engage in their communities or the ways that we spend our money. So we are telling the world how we think it ought to be based on our buying practices. And what I wanted to look at is the way that we can become more intentional with this, and whether or not there's any trends. Sorry, we have a guest. Whether or not there are any trends that I can see that are reinforcing this. And what I found is that consumers definitely do have the buying power to create the demand that companies will provide a supply for. And what I'm noticing as a trend is that we're seeing a switch in the way that consumers are demanding businesses behave. So consumers are asking businesses to do more on a personal, social, and organizational level. We are demanding more of them. And in part, I think it's because people are becoming more aware of the way society interacts and the way that companies are shaping and changing. Sorry, she's being so helpful. They're changing the world. It's why we're seeing these new moves where certain types of business models just are not doing well. McDonald's, for example, is really struggling to stay current, to stay relevant, and it's because consumers are starting to demand more. They want better quality, they want better treatment of the workers, they want better social action, and McDonald's is having a hard time meeting those specific demands. Also, the beauty industry in general is starting to see a little bit of a push for a change. More consumers are requesting that beauty industries focus more on more diversity, more access for people of color, more options for a variety of different economic, social, political backgrounds. And in this way, people are really demanding that the industry become better, and they're sort of like shaping the society. So it's a really interesting time for us right now where, see if I can shut this so it stops. Sorry, I have a window beeping. There we go. Okay, sorry, a little detour. But we know that the beauty industry is problematic. It's always telling women that they can become better, become happy if they fulfill a certain void that the beauty industry has created. And what consumers are starting to do is to reject that, and they're demanding more positivity, more inclusivity. They're demanding that the businesses actually reflect social values. And so in this sense, people are starting to understand their power. They're starting, hi Hayne, they're understanding the role that they can play, and they're also refusing to settle. It's not making an overnight change. We still see, big businesses doing really well. We still see general trends, But there definitely is this movement with consumers being concerned about making the beauty industry more active, more socially conscious, more socially aware. And let's see, what I commented on, or what I was finding in my research, is that there's more of this cultivating intentional values with your purchases. There's more emphasis on looking at a business and how they reinforce positive or negative social norms, what their business models are, how they treat their employees, how they treat their community. And it's really resulting in people, oh, hi, Debbie, I didn't see you pop in. It's really resulting in people really transforming the world in a way that's really interesting. And sort of the results of this is I did my article submissions like I mentioned. I got mercilessly rejected, which is a surprise to nobody. I do not expect Teen Vogue to really care what Darci Doll has to say about business ethics out of nowhere, unsolicited, but I still tried. But it allowed me to look at why businesses like Sabbatical Beauty are really successful. We have a business that is focused on community-minded standards, providing good quality ingredients, but also taking a very clear mission statement and value statement and acting in ways that's consistent with that. And that's something that more people are demanding, that a business is transparent about what they do, how they do it, why they do it, who they're doing it for, and more importantly, that they're backing it up with their actions, that we're trying to make sure that the companies are worth investing in. And smarter companies are realizing that and are changing their behavior, they're changing their models to meet those consumer demands. One of the reasons why we all love Sabbatical Beauty so much is because there is a lot of community involvement. There is a lot of emphasis on being socially aware and socially active. There is a lot of positivity going on beyond just skincare. It's also a company that doesn't try to sell you skincare by telling you that you're not good enough. It just focuses on providing you something of good quality that's going to help meet a need in your life without breaking you down. And that's something that I'm noticing, that companies that are adopting models like that are doing better faster. Small businesses usually don't do well in the first couple of years, but businesses that have a clear mission statement, a clear value statement, and they actually back it up, do see some better improvements or some better trajectories than other ones that are trying to follow like big box models. So that's one of the things that I did, was look at how there are certain companies that are focusing on taking care of their employees, taking care of the community, being socially aware and active, and how that's being advantageous to them. I made a module for my business ethics students based on this, where I have them pick like a larger company, try to identify what their value statements are, their ethical statements are, what their missions and values are, and then actually analyze to see whether or not they think those are good, and then follow through with analyzing to see whether or not the company is living up to them, because that's a different thing, what a company says it values versus what it does. And consumers are getting smarter about noticing that difference, that a company might say it cares about people, but it doesn't do things that are consistent with that. So to say something kind of controversial, a good example is Nike right now. A lot of people are really loving the message Nike is sending with the Colin Kaepernick ad campaign, and they're loving that Nike is tying into social awareness, political action, trying to end racial injustice and those other things. But people are also really critical of the fact that Nike has some really questionable business practices. So people are calling them out on that, saying like, great message, you have to back it up. You have to start living by it yourselves. And that's something that I'm seeing as an increasing trend that I want my students to start looking for. Are these companies doing what they say they're going to do? And if so, how is it affecting them positively? If not, is it affecting them negatively? Why or why not? What does it say about the company? I also want them to look at a comparison to a small business and see if there's any sort of value statements or mission statements, goals that the small business is looking at how they manage it, whether or not they pack it up, and then doing this comparison between a large company and a small one. That's a semester-long project where I want them to be consistently looking at these companies and seeing what they're doing, how they're doing it, whether or not it's morally or ethically justified. I I did throw together a quick handout for you. I can't figure out how to pin it here, so I think I can pin comments, but I don't know how to like add a PDF. I did make a PDF for you that is kind of like a shopper's guide to what I'm talking about. It's just a quick like 5-question thing to ask yourself. When you're trying to decide whether or not a company is worth investing in, there are just a few questions you can ask yourself that I think are important. One is, what are their stated values, goals, mission statement? What do they say they care about? Two, what do you care about? And is this company upholding them, or is it violating that? The third one is tying into what I said about my students. Is the company actually practicing what they preach? What are their actions saying about what they actually value? And is that something that you think is good? And in this case, sometimes we find that a company might be really humble, but they're doing amazing things. And so that's another component of it. Like, what is this company actually advocating? How are they shaping the world around them? And is it in a way that you think is good or bad? Also looking at how they treat their employees, so their work conditions, where do the products come from? How are the employees treated? What are the employees saying about the company? Do they have livable wages? Do they have good working conditions, good benefits? And then looking at how this company or this business or the industry is interacting with its community. Do they really value the community members, or are they just trying to sell you something? I talked to somebody today who's a small business owner. She's a hairstylist, and she was telling me how a sales rep was trying to sell her a $1,600, I said that correctly, $1,600 pair of shears. And he told her they were good for everything, but she did her research and found out they're only specifically for a specific type of dry cut. And we had a chat, as I do with people in the middle of nowhere, about like the ethics behind that business sales approach, that he's trying to score one big sale and he's not focusing on her or what her needs are, or establishing a long-term relationship or a long-term investment in her, and how that's problematic. It's a business model that doesn't really work very well anymore. It's not one that that's really going to withstand the test of time. And this is something consumers are becoming more aware of. It's what I want my students to look at. It's what I want you guys to look at. What is this business's practices saying about the way they view and value their community? Do they support them? Do they lift them up? Or are they just trying to get as much money off of them as soon as they can? Haynes said I'm smart. I wish. I hope I'm smart. She says that she's talking about the problems of big business and business ethics as she drinks her McDonald's. I'm a complex creature. I'm hypocritical. So I think I listed like the 5 things, but also like yeah. I'm a treat. I'm a complex creature. I think that's the 5 things in the handouts. I think I said them all. But it's basically your little buyer's guide. What do you value? Does the company say they value the same things? Are they showing that they value the same things? And how are they treating their employees, and how are they treating their community? If you ask those questions, it will help you become a better informed buyer, and it'll help you have a better understanding of how you're investing in like the values of the world. That it allows you to actually take action within the beauty industry and other industries as well. The other thing I wanted to add, just as sort of like a personal note, is one of the things that I kept finding is that we do acknowledge that there's power in purchasing, but there's this huge deficit of people who don't have the purchasing power to make the changes. So I was just reading an article today about how the plus size industry is struggling because fashion industries know that they can just focus on non-plus size clothing and still be fine. So what it really requires for us to have better access to plus size clothing is for people who are willing to say, no, we're not going to buy from you unless you also offer good quality plus size clothing at a good price point. Same thing with like people of color. They do not get the same representation and support that they need. And that means that allies and people need to sort of like step up and demand it from their companies too. We need to be more vocal. We need to use our privilege to help make things better for everybody. Hi, Miss. Hi. She's like helping. Sorry. She's so exciting. That's the other thing that I sort of noticed was lacking in this discussion about influencing and business trends is that we don't really talk about people of privilege really stepping out and trying to change the industry for people who need the changes but who don't have the same buying power as other people. And so that's sort of the note I wanted to end it on, that when you're thinking about how you're interacting with these businesses and how that shapes the world around you, don't just think about how it shapes the world for people like you or people in your position, but what does it really say about the people who are more vulnerable, underrepresented, the people who don't get the same attention, who don't have the same access to the same options. We need to become a little bit more proactive on behalf of other people to really see the positive changes that we need. And that's what I've been up to this summer. Knee-deep in business ethics and looking at how we can make better informed choices. And after this, I will pin my PDF to the Facebook page somehow so that you guys can see it. It's just a little short worksheet for you to help you highlight those 5 points. Express why is kind of important. And if anyone has any questions for me, I don't see any. Went on for way too long. Questions or comments, anything? Okay, well then I will end this. Thank you so much. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll respond to any comments that I see. If you are watching this on live, or if you're watching this live, thank you for attending. If you're watching it in the replay, thank you for watching. If you catch this on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe to catch other updates and videos. And have a beautiful day. Love you.